It's amazing as I listen to you to think, how many years in the ICU have you spent?
30 years.
30 years, obviously there was a time when you really believed in the system you were working in, right? When did that belief really shift for you? Was it just COVID?
So you ask a really good question. So I always knew that there was corruption and that Big Pharma dominated the curriculum. And maybe I was very late for my eyes to be opened. But clearly COVID has shone a bright light on the absolute corruption in medicine. And to be honest, it's probably goes back 20 or 30 years. That, I've realized now that almost everything I've been taught in medical school is wrong.
Wow.
I have to unlearn everything I've been taught because it's dominated by pharma and it's completely and utterly false and it's a fraud. I mean, most recently I've been really interested in the statin cholesterol fraud.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in this country take statins because there's this mistaken belief, and it's a fraud, that cholesterol and saturated fat cause heart disease. That is a fraud.
Yeah.
And it's perpetrated by Big Pharma because they want to sell you drugs that you take for the rest of your life. They're not interested in curing your disease. They're interested in prolonging your disease and your symptoms. We can say the same thing for SSRIs. We can say the same thing for diabetic medication. The same thing for proton pump inhibitors.
Yeah.
So I have had to unlearn everything I was taught at medical school because it's false. And we have been corrupted. And unfortunately, most doctors just don't want to see this. I don't think they, and it's a really interesting question. Why don't they see the corruption? Why don't they see the false medicine that they're practicing? Maybe it's because they're too scared to admit what they've been doing for the last 20 years is wrong. And they just follow. Maybe they're just not interested. Maybe they're just too believing in the medical system. I used to believe in what I read in the medical journals. I used to believe the New England Journal of Medicine. I thought it came from heaven. It was the absolute truth. I now know that it's false. It's fabricated. It's fraudulent. I mean, even look at the Remdesivir study published in New England Journal. We know that they committed scientific misconduct. In that Remdesivir study, you may not know this.
No.
They changed the endpoint. What they did, Tony Fauci didn't say this in the White House. They unblinded the study halfway. It was not going to reach the predetermined endpoints. The endpoints were death and intubation and being on a ventilator. They realized the study would fail. So what did they do? They changed the endpoint to some nebulous endpoint of time to recovery. And since they knew which patients were unblinded, they discharged them early. It's a fabricated, fraudulent study.
Wow.
And based on this, and the New England Journal knew this, the FDA...
So just to be clear, so that I understand this, they essentially had a study where they were going to show we have a reduction in death and ventilators, like in extreme results. They were not having that result. They weren't showing it was doing that. So they went in, unblinded everybody, and so we did the placebo group. They got to see everything, and then started moving people in and out of the study to get the result. And they couldn't say we reduced death, we reduced severe results. Instead, they just said we shortened the time you were in the hospital. They came up with some different arbitrary.
That's exactly what they showed.
Wow.
If you go back and look at their fraudulent study, that's what they showed.
Right.
That was a manipulated endpoint.
By Tony Fauci, who's in a regulatory agency that is supposed to be unbiased and simply calling it like he sees it, calling it like they see it. He is personally at the NIH involved in this study and manipulating it. And by the way, we were seeing similarly bad results in every other study being done around the world. The exact opposite of ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, where you just have this massive ocean of brilliant studies showing between 50%, 75% reductions when it comes to ivermectin in death and severe COVID. And yet the NIH finally gets involved in studies and we see the opposite. Their studies are the only ones that show there's a deleterious effect. In this case, they're the only studies that show that remdesivir works.